So, folks, I'm going to be talking about funding and a little bit about myself. So, I run a business called Do Good Funding. The business has been around for 6 years, and we raise money for charities and nonprofits. That's our work. And this year, Sheridan College asked us to partner with them to raise money for for-profits. And so, in the past, I've been involved with the expo, and you know, I've done a presentation in the past to talk about sort of how you can access some of this funding. And today I'll be telling you really a little bit about the strategy, how you go about grants, what you need to know, how to access them, what are some common mistakes that entrepreneurs make in this area, and then I'll give you some actual grants. Like, I think a lot of us are wondering, okay, like, what can I actually apply for? I'll give you some actual, real, useful, helpful grants that you can go after. And so I'll just, I'll wait until the tech is set up. I don't know if you want to call the hotel or something and get them to help, but it's on this laptop. It's also on a, can be on a USB. Just show of hands, how many people have ever written a grant before? How many people would like to write a grant, by show of hands? Okay. So what do we know about grants? Just anybody in the room, what do we know? Okay, somebody, tell us something.
It's money.
What's that? One more time? It's money, is that what I heard? Okay, it's money, good. So grants are money. What do grants allow us to do as entrepreneurs?
It's a funding, I could say it's a funding that enables somebody to implement a project.
Excellent. It's funding that enables you to implement a project. What else can it allow you to do? Anyone? Yeah.
Computer, maybe a student's grant, that can support you with your tuition.
Okay, excellent. So grants can support you with your tuition. Very good. And?
It's not repayable.
So it's not repayable. Interesting. So a grant is something that you're given that you don't necessarily have to pay back. We also talk about loans and subsidies sometimes in my company. So loans are, loans are resources that you do have to pay back, but they help you. They buy you time, essentially. And subsidies are essentially dollars that help cover your costs. Okay, grants, loans, and subsidies. So in today's workshop, we'll cover a bunch of these things. And let me just tell you a little bit about the business. This is probably the only selling that's going to happen. We have 5 services. They're on the slide on the screen for you now. If you're interested in any of these services, please connect with the organizers. Let them know that you found this valuable. Let them know that you like the services, and let them introduce you to us. And that way you can demonstrate some value in what we presented today, as opposed to reaching out directly. We find grants, we write grants, we train people on grants, we have a consulting practice, we do workshops just like this. And it's all with the goal to help you raise more money. So my background, I was appointed to the grant review team of the Ontario Trillium Foundation. That's the largest nonprofit funder in Canada. I spent 5 years reviewing and assessing grants. So probably about 300 or 400 grants. What happens is when you review and assess grants for the government, you learn secrets. So I share all those secrets now for a low fee. And we've actually raised over $14 million so far in the 6 years of business, and we have a lot more to go. So I have a team of 10, and we work pretty hard to raise money for organizations, entrepreneurs, that sort of thing. So in today's presentation, we'll talk about a few things. Obviously, grants. You'll receive an introduction to grants. I'll tell you what funders look for when it comes to grants. We'll talk about share some actual We'll have some questions and discussion. Can I get a time check of how much time we have for this session? It's 2:45 now, so until about 3:30?
It depends on how much information you have to share.
I mean, Work with Alterna quite a bit. Alterna Savings gave me my first loan. When I started in business, I realized I can't even do this myself. I was so focused on the work that I wasn't sending invoices and I wasn't getting paid. So I said to Alterna, we already banked together, can you give me a loan? They said yes. We have a microcredit program for entrepreneurs, and they gave me a loan, and that bought me 3 months of time. I hired an assistant very casually. That person did the invoices, I did all the other stuff, and today we're a fairly successful business that's stable. Loans buy you time, and lenders give you loans. Private businesses. How many people have ever heard of TELUS or Desjardins? Just by show of hands, TELUS, Desjardins. Okay, those are pretty big institutions in Canada. Well, they actually give out grants. This year, both TELUS and Desjardins had a competition to give out grants. Highly competitive, very few grants across the country, but nonetheless, they gave out grants. You can go on their websites now, you can see who won that funding. And then one that I like quite a bit that's featured on the slide here is Employment Ontario. How many people have ever heard of Employment Ontario? How many people have ever applied to Employment Ontario for any sort of program? Okay, so they offer wage subsidies, and they offer those all across the province. It is free money. I repeat, free money. Okay, for your employees, for anyone who's supporting your business, working in your business, your assistant, somebody who you've hired to do some sort of a project or maybe a short-term sort of initiative, you can hire them through this program, and they'll give you 6 weeks of wage subsidies. You know, for us, we were paying someone, I think it was $25 an hour, and they were giving us $11 to $13 an hour in subsidies, which is massive, massive. So these are funders. Now, people ask me all the time, hey Roy, tell us about grants for entrepreneurs. So many funders, especially the government, they won't fund entrepreneurs. And the reason why is because a lot of times the money that comes from funding institutions is backed by government. The government is our tax dollars, and they don't want to spend our tax dollars benefiting one private individual, and so for that reason they often don't fund us. But many funders will support outcomes. We want more black entrepreneurs, we want more women, we want more youth employed, right? And so if you're doing those things, they'll support you. I talked about the Employment Ontario wage subsidies, okay? The funders who are giving you wage subsidies aren't doing it because they love you and they want to support your business. They're doing it because they want better employment outcomes. That's literally their mandate, right? Employment Ontario's mandate is better employment outcomes for Ontario. So if you're doing that work, and if you're helping keep people employed or helping get more people employed, you're more likely to get one of those. Then when it comes to loans, I find that a lot of times it's about economic growth, okay? So they want more money coming into the region, they want more tourist spending, they want more jobs created, so they'll give you a loan, and that's them giving you a ton of money, risking that you might not pay it back, okay? Sometimes they make a profit, they get some interest, but at the end of the day, you ask yourself, why are they giving you this? And it's because they want to achieve certain outcomes. And then there are grants. And I find grants go through like a season or a trend. So right now the trend is reducing barriers, right? And like we're all fairly diverse entrepreneurs. It's a pretty good time to be a diverse entrepreneur. It's a pretty good time to be racialized because all of the grants right now are for racialized and diverse entrepreneurs. You won't see a grant for like white males ages 20 to 40. I've never seen it, right? And there's one grant in particular, some of you might know it. Does anyone know the one I'm talking about? It closes in a week. Anyway? Okay, I'll talk about it in my presentation, watch for it. So, subsidies, loans, grants. All these things are meant to grow your business, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Most of my presentation is really dedicated to that, so if that works for you, then you're in the right place and you're with the right people. Now, let's talk about funders and what do funders look for. And if you have a burning question, it's a pretty casual group, feel free to just shout it out. You know, I think we all learn that way, and we'll have some questions and discussion at the end. What do funders look for? Well, they look for the fit. Okay, so what is the right fit between you as a business, as an entrepreneur, and the funder? Well, first and foremost, your existing projects can continue, okay? If you're in the business of making Caribbean food, you can still make Caribbean food and get that grant. If you do fine suits and blazers, you can still produce your blazers and get that funding. That's good. If you have to change from Caribbean to Chinese, if you have to change from blazers to pajamas, you got a problem. Okay? That means it's the wrong fit if you're having to create brand new projects, right? The funder and what they're focused on has to be aligned with your focus. So in these examples that I gave, if you're in the food entrepreneurship sector and they're in the sports entrepreneurship sector, it's not going to work. People call me all the time, Rohit, I found this grant, let's just try, let's see what happens. And we look at the guidelines and we look at what they're trying to do and we say, well, actually, this has to be a fit. If it's not, should we apply? How many people think we should apply if it's not a good fit? How many people think we should not apply? Yeah, if it's a poor fit, don't apply because you may not win and you may be wasting your time, but you know, the biggest issue is that time is money as entrepreneurs. Okay? Your time is limited. You only have a limited amount of time to put into these projects. So you have to make sure that you have a strong shot of success. At Do Good, we literally don't work on a grant unless there's a strong shot at success. We spend more time convincing our clients not to apply for things and we save them time and people appreciate that in the long run. The ask has to be suitable based on your budget. The ask. What's the ask? How much money you want to ask for. It has to be suitable, it has to be reasonable. You're in the food business, you have to maybe hire a part-time worker to help you make the food. Maybe you need a driver to deliver that food to your customers. You shouldn't be asking for $1 million for that, right? It's also unreasonable to ask for $1,000 because you need more money than that, right? The ask has to be in a reasonable range. So the funder will look at that and say, yes, this is a reasonable ask. The organization is reputable. They have a history of success. They have sales. We can trust them. They'll give you the grant. Hopefully. Funders want strategy. And I could talk about this for a whole workshop just on its own. That when you're applying for a grant, please don't jump into the grant. Please take a step back and slow down and think about it. Every day we do this. I literally did this in the lobby just a little while ago. I was with an organization and they said, okay, you know, we want to apply for this grant, and we said, okay, you know, I'm going to pretend I'm the funder, I'm going to ask you some questions. And at the start of the call, I wasn't really convinced. I really thought, you know what, this organization is not a good fit for the grant. And by the end of the call, they actually changed my mind. And I said, you know what, you guys should apply for that grant. Okay? And so what do? We assess. We look at the guidelines. Anyone know what guidelines are? What does that mean when I say guidelines?
Normally they are shared by the funders or the people providing the funding to show you how they want your application to be made and what attachments they want you to attach, like what you need to follow to meet their conditions.
Excellent, excellent. So the guidelines are provided by the funder, what you need to follow to meet their conditions, what attachments, what requirements, that sort of thing. It's all spelled out very clearly. It's pretty nice when they provide it. 99% of the times you're going to find guidelines. You know, sometimes they might not be as clear, and then you have to go to an info session. You have to email the funder. But ask yourself, right? Did I read the guidelines, and are we actually effectively able to answer the questions? Before you even, you know, get through most of the process, just look at the questions. They're asking some questions. Those questions are very intentional. They're put there for a reason, and every question has to have an answer. If you're looking at the questions and you can't even answer half of them, maybe this grant might not be a good fit, right? Check for errors in your logic, okay? So the grant is for seniors, you know, and you produce soccer balls, for instance. Is that a logical fit, right? So often, this is what we do in our role. Like at my company and as writers, as grant writers, as consultants, we're just looking at the overall strategy and the logic, and we're asking, does this actually make sense? It has to be a good fit, it has to make sense. How many people watch Dragon's Den? Oh my God. Guys, which one? What do you like about Dragon's Den?
I think it's interesting when they pitch their idea, and the dragons, as they call them, the investors basically, they always, like, sort of, they're very nitpicky, and they see flaws or issues, and they try to, like, test the person that's coming onto the show to see if they really know what they're talking about, are they really certain about something.
Interesting. Okay, so they're picky, they try and test the entrepreneurs. These are reasons why you should be watching Dragon's Den. It is probably one of the best business shows in Canada. It's free. It's available on CBC Gem. It's an app. They should be paying me for this. If you can learn from the mistakes of these entrepreneurs who are literally doing a grant live, they're going in front of investors and they're trying to get money. If you learn from the mistakes, if you see how the dragons rip apart their ideas and prove to them that sometimes they're illogical, sometimes they're not consistent, you will receive more money just from watching that show. And there is Shark Tank. I find it's a little more aggressive. How many people know Shark Tank? Okay, so a few more, but as entrepreneurs, I mean, y'all should be watching Dragon's Den, trust me on that. So it'll allow you to catch poor strategy. I literally watch that show with a notebook and I'm watching people's strategy and I'm just catching mistakes. You know, the dragons will catch it, but I'm paying attention too, and you can do that as well. Okay, so that's your homework. Everyone's homework is to go watch Dragon's Den. Marvel star Simu Liu is now
Repeat
one of
the
the
name
dragons.
again.
Dragon's Den. CBC Dragon's Den. You know, like dragons, angry, fire. Simu Liu, the Marvel star, the Asian gentleman, is now the 6th dragon, which is kind of a big deal. He's from Toronto. Right? Anyway, assess, check for errors, catch a poor strategy. Do all this so that your strategy can be stronger and so that you can go into these grants more prepared. Okay. What else do funders want? Funders want a well-written proposal. Obviously, right? They want to make sure that your proposal has been edited. Some of you work with a team, some of you work with a spouse, you work with a family member, you work with a business partner. Use Google Docs. Okay, Silicon Valley has put millions of dollars into this wonderful thing called Google. Again, they should be paying me to say this. Please use this technology. It's available to us. You know, we've never had as much technology in the history of humanity as we do now. And a lot of it is free. And so there's no excuse for having a proposal that's not well written. Google is so advanced that as you're typing, it will correct you. The AI is so strong, it's almost scary, that it will correct your sentences as you type. So it's hard to say that you have a poorly written proposal because you don't have the resources. It is literally free. The comment feature. How many people have ever used the comment feature in Google Docs? Yeah, get somebody to do that for you. Get a friend or family member or business partner to use those features. Add notes in a different color so that if someone gives you feedback, you don't make the mistake of uploading that feedback and submitting it to the funder. You know, it's happened. It's an example, okay? So this is from a grant, and you can see that different things have been added over there, things have been striked out, right? It's so useful, so helpful to have one of these done for you to improve your writing. What else do funders want? They want research. And this is really important, and I think most people don't know or understand that you can't just go to a funder and say that you know the issue and ask for money. You can't just say, we know, about the lack of food options in our community, or we know what our customers want. You have to prove it. They're not going to take your word for it. They need data, statistics, evidence that backs up that what you're doing in your project is actually relevant and correct. So the research should be specific to your community. Let's say you're serving Caribbean food in Rexdale. Give statistics about Rexdale. It should be credible. So anyone can give me a credible example of where you can get some research? Anybody?
Statistics Canada.
Statistics Canada. That's probably the most credible in all of Canada. What else do you have? Where else can you go for some stats about your community?
The United Nations.
Possibly. I would go a little bit more local than that. What city are we in? Exactly. That's another one. Right? The municipalities, they invest so much money in data. They literally have data nerds working for them. They pay these people very well, and those people publish data online. You should get that data. Whatever your business is, or if you represent a nonprofit or charity, get the data and understand what's happening in your community through the facts. You know your community. We all know our communities, but you need facts to back it up. That's what forces reviewers to act, right? Your research should be relevant and timely, okay? COVID just happened, 3 years of a pandemic. A lot of the research from before COVID is not as relevant as the research currently and after COVID. Things have changed a lot. I don't think there's ever been a shift like this before, but I'm telling you that you need new statistics, up-to-date statistics. Is your work addressing a major issue that's happening out in the community right now? Unemployment has changed. You know, is your work addressing violence? Violence has changed. Are you addressing food insecurity? That has changed, right? So much has changed in the last few years that your research should be newer. And then there's the idea of urgency. And I want to tell you a story on urgency. So I was on the grant review team of the Ontario Trillium Foundation, and we had one of these meetings. Okay, so we're there around the boardroom table. We have to give out, you know, I don't know how many million that night, 3 million. And the Legion, the Royal Canadian Legion, you know, it's for veterans. They had put in an application. Okay, so they put in an application and they said, oh, we're applying for this grant. Our roof is actually about to cave in, right? So we're all sitting around the table, we're looking at this grant, and it's like, okay, their roof is about to cave in. What should we do? And so somebody said, hey, how bad are we going to look if their roof caves in and we didn't fund them, right? We're like, oh yeah. The grant isn't that well written, but we're going to look so bad. This is going to be in the Toronto Star. Okay, guys, we have to fund this. We funded them. Okay? They got their repair. And the reason why is because they used urgency. You have to use a sense of urgency. That's one of the ways to be more competitive from your peers. And then funders want sales. And I say this because in our businesses, we're going to be getting sponsors. I think there are some sponsors involved right here, right now, in this very room, in this conference. How did we get those sponsors? How did we get a private business, Elgon International Inc., to get additional funding from outside to help make this workshop happen? Somebody convinced somebody of something, okay? And the way to do that is you put together a pitch deck. How many people have ever done a pitch deck? So by show of hands, 1, 2. Okay. Is there anything you can tell us, for those of you who raised your hands? What can you tell us about your pitch deck? Anything. What was it like? What was difficult? What was easy?
It's not easy.
It's not easy. It's not easy. And why not?
Oh, okay. Like when you're pitching, you need to be, just as you said, you have to have the statistics. You have to be knowing your whatever you're pitching, and but the people in front of you, the people you're pitching to, of course, they will be intimidated,
Sure.
and the fear that you get when you're trying to sell something.
Well, absolutely.
It's not easy.
It's not easy. And so this idea of the people you're pitching to can be intimidating. There's a fear of selling. We all have a fear. I think a lot of us had a fear before becoming entrepreneurs, right? How many people had some fear before becoming an entrepreneur? I certainly did. Oh my God, it took me 3 years just to take the first step. Absolutely. And so there is that part. What else would you add? Anybody else who's ever done a pitch? Maybe Kwame, what would you say?
I think for the pitch, most times it's all about what they will perceive after you presenting it to them.
Okay.
So mainly, that is also it goes back still to intimidation. So yeah.
Sure. And that can sometimes be very challenging when you're putting together the pitch. Oh my God, what's the perception?
Yeah.
You know, oh, they're dragons, you know, they're sharks, they're sitting up here. And that's why they call it Dragon's Den, by the way. It's not, you know, Pony's Den. You know, it's not Puppy's Den. Dragon's Den, right? Shark Tank. These words are literally because it's so scary and so intimidating. People start crying sometimes. But you won't, because you've been to this workshop, and now you know that you need to put together a pitch deck to solicit support for your work. I want you to know that you actually have to tell the sponsor, especially when you're doing sponsorship pitches, you have to tell them exactly what you're going to do for them. Here's how many people are coming in the room. Here's how many impressions you're going to receive. Here's how many clicks, likes, views, mentions. You have to tell them all that.
Yeah, I think and also another thing is most times they tend to squash your idea down, and like they try to make you feel like losing it and see whether you are able to explain to them why it is important to you.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, they do squash your idea down. They look for flaws in your idea. They'll attack. And you know, on this show that I mentioned, they constantly do that. They say, well, you came in here for a $2 million valuation, but like, are you crazy? How did you come up with that? Or they'll say, you know, your product says this, but you're doing that. And so you see people get put on the spot. You have to be prepared for this, right? If you want this, you have to really be prepared. The pitch deck helps you to be prepared. It gives you time to get organized, put it in slides, right? You get on the phone, you're calling the corporate because you want them to sponsor your event or your program or something you're doing in your business. Who do you call? This is one of those secret tips that I'm telling you. Marketing. The marketing department is the one to call. If you want, you know, Nestle or Eska or whatever, if you want these companies to provide free water at your major event, major conference, major initiative, you need to call marketing. And you need to tell them, hey, I'm doing this thing. Here's how many impressions I'm going to get for you. Here's how many views, likes, hits. Can you give us 500 bottles of water? And they will. I've done this before. And I've worked for a number of charities, nonprofits. Sometimes we were raising $1 million. Sometimes we were putting on major events. And you'd be shocked at what companies are willing to give if you just ask. But you have to give them exposure. Because their number one goal is to sell, right? They want to sell goods and services. And probably that's your goal as well as an entrepreneur. So offer that recognition. Tell them the recognition you're going to give them. Give them the recognition. And then tell them that you gave them the recognition, right? At the end, tell them what you did for them. And funders want strong budgets. This grant that I was telling you about, it's a great grant, $10,000, okay? You have to submit a strong budget. You have to tell the government of Ontario how you're going to spend their money, or they're not giving it to you. Now, I was on a call the other day, and somebody gave me a quote, and they said, Rohit, here's our quote. You know, I'll get some t-shirts, I'll get some magnets. And then we'll get this $8,000 marketing quote. And I'm looking at the marketing quote, I said, this is pretty generic. They're like, oh yeah, they just gave us a quote, you know. And I said, this isn't gonna do. You gotta really get into detail with your budget. Put estimates for everything. It just said like, SEO, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, you know, ads, print, this, that, blah, 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 $8,000. And I was like, no. You have to put line by line, literally, how much is your SEO? How much is your Facebook? How much is your Instagram? If you list those out, then you're more likely to be successful because now you've given detail. A lot of folks don't do this. One of the biggest mistakes on budgets is that they lack detail. So the funder looks at it, they say, this is probably made up. It's all estimated. Your numbers should not be rounded into perfect zeros. You know, we don't want to see that as funders, right? And then the budget needs to be realistic. The budget period needs to be realistic. Tell them when you're going to spend that money. You know when the grant starts and when it ends. A lot of grants follow government fiscal years. So government of Canada, you know, April 1st to March 31st. So very often if you're getting money from those sources, you have to have it spent by that period. Is that realistic? There was a grant we applied for last week, Region of Peel. You have to spend all the money by March 31st. It was in the hundreds of thousands. If you're putting together a budget, it has to be spent within that time frame or they're not going to fund. Any questions about that so far? Who's feeling lost? You're hot?
We're listening.
Yes. Is it too hot in here?
No, it's good.
Good, okay. Stick with me. When strategy matches the budget, when you do this well, good things happen, okay? Whatever you're asking for is sufficient to carry out the project. Funder looks at it, they're pretty happy, they're more likely to fund you. The request needs to be reasonable, okay, and sufficient. One time an organization really pressed me, they're like, Rohit, we need 100 iPads. And they really fought me on it. And I was like, we can't apply for 100 iPads. We're just not gonna get it. This is silly, right? And they really fought tooth and nail for that and we didn't go ahead with it because the request has to be reasonable. It can't be unrealistic. 100 iPads, how many people think that's unrealistic for a grant? How many people think that's very realistic?
Depending on the target group.
Depending on the
Depending on the target.
Tell me more, tell me more.
I think it depends on the target group.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the beneficiaries of the grant.
The coverage.
Because if I have like 100 staff,
Yeah.
in the organization.
Yeah.
Then I estimate that each staff is going to get that tablet. As long as I explain it, like you say, be realistic. As long as you explain it and say each staff is going to benefit with this, then it is.
You are right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what, you're right, actually. And the context was it was mostly a volunteer-led organization that engaged you. They had no staff. Right? They had very little budget. What they were trying to do, you know, we thought it was quite a bit of an ask. And then on the funder side, you know, a few years ago, we started getting these requests when I was on the grant review team. iPads, every grant, people want iPads. It just became the running joke for us as funders. It was like, oh, look, here's another request for iPads. Oh, they want 20. Oh, how much does this one want, right? And so you have to make sure that it's realistic and reasonable. If it's not reasonable, they won't fund. They'll look at it, they'll say, yeah, right, 100 iPads, and they won't fund the grant, right? Basically, when strategy matches budget and the funder has no concerns, the funder is happy, you're more likely to win the grant. Okay, let's talk about something more exciting, which is the top 10 most common mistakes on grants. Okay, top 10 most common mistakes. Number 10, no statistics or research. So anytime you're working on a grant, you need to have good stats. That is absolutely essential. That justifies the need for your funding, right? You're doing this great restaurant business, you're helping get Caribbean food to the people of Rexdale. Do the people of Rexdale want Caribbean food? Are there Caribbean people living in Rexdale? Stats help, okay? And you need to tell the funder, like, what is the issue you're trying to resolve and why is it important, right? Maybe there is no Caribbean restaurant in all of Rexdale. You know? Or maybe it's a certain type of African food, maybe it's Ghanaian food, maybe it's Nigerian food that you're bringing, right? Are you serving a need? Okay, is there a justification for that need? So stats help. Statistics Canada was mentioned by our friend who's left. Statistics Canada has great information. You should look at that with regards to your own business and what it is that you do, right? Everybody does something different. Surveys are good, you know, quantitative data. Qualitative data is good. You had 10 individuals come up to your door and ask you for this thing that you can't produce because you need the equipment, or you need the staff help, or you need the machinery, right? That's helpful. You know? You have a waiting list of 50 in your business because you just don't have the capacity to put out that many of your product. You know, you're sold out. You sold out, right? Your stats, and I've said this before, they should speak locally. Somebody suggested the UN. You want stats that are really local. Okay, you want to avoid broad, generalized statements. You know, 1/3 of people live in poverty in Canada. That's not a good stat. But if you say in Rexdale, you know, there's this much food insecurity now, that's a good stat. Now you're talking specific, right? Okay, top 10 mistakes. Number 9, submitting late applications. How many people have ever submitted anything late ever in their life? Every hand. You know, we've all done it, right? It's 11:59, you're there, you're nervous. You know, oh my gosh. Please don't submit late applications. After attending this workshop, please submit them a day in advance at least, and avoid, you know, the last minute stress and panic, okay? And press submit early too, right? You don't want to be the person who worked on it days and days in advance, and then you look at the clock and like, oh my God, it's 11 o'clock, and then you go and you try and work on it, and you know. And always save a copy. Nothing more embarrassing than winning a grant and then having to go back to the funder to ask for a copy of your own grant. Right? Top 10 mistakes. Number 8, not utilizing attachments. So funders allow this other, okay? You'll see it on grant applications all the time. We do 200 to 300 a year, so like we see this all the time. Tell us something else about your project. What else would you like to tell us? Is there anything else you would like us to know? Please insert any additional attachments that you would like us to see. This is gold. You can literally put whatever you want in here. Obviously something relevant to your business or your proposal. A letter of support is great. A newspaper clipping is amazing. These days you can attach a video. A lot of funders allow you to attach videos. It's fairly new. Testimonials are awesome, you know. Maybe a Google review for businesses. You can even attach that, right? That really adds value. Because the funder's looking through everybody's boring applications, it's the same text again and again, it gets monotone. If you even just have a picture of yourself with your product, you have a drink or a food item and there's you, that's gonna make you stand out, right? So utilize attachments. Top 10 most common mistakes, number 7, underselling your work. You may think that your business is small or that you're not as impactful or that you're just an entrepreneur, you're just getting started, but you should sell your own accomplishments. You should provide examples of the work you've done. You should include stats about your own business, even if you just sold 10 of something or 100 of something and you don't think it's a big deal, it probably might be a big deal compared to the other applicants. You never know, right? You don't know who applied, you don't know what they applied for. And so they tell you not to brag when we grow up. They're like, oh, be humble, don't brag, this, that. But I'm telling you, you should brag. This is the space to brag. It's on grant applications. You brag about yourself, you brag about your accomplishments, right? Top 10 most common mistakes. Number 6, not expressing a sense of urgency. So I told you the story already about the application that came in from the Legion and their roof was going to collapse, and then we just funded them. But now we have a new challenge, which is we just went through COVID. Okay, we went through 3 years of COVID. Every business hurt and suffered and lost revenue. I literally just had lunch and I said, how's business? And she said to me, it's okay, but it's not what it was before COVID. And I said, I know, I hear you. And so funders need to hear that. They need to hear you say it. My business went down. Our business almost closed at a certain point. Then we figured out COVID grants. Anyway, you need to use persuasive language. Here's some examples of persuasive language. This grant is essential because this funding will enable us to immediately, without this grant, so you fill in the blanks for your business, but just remember that urgency creates priority. If I have 2 applications, they're both well written, okay? Let's say it's a women entrepreneur grant, you're both women, and one of them is more urgent than the other, which do you think I'm gonna go with?
Urgency.
Of course, urgency always wins and helps create priority. Top 10 mistakes, number 5, starting from scratch. Don't do it. Don't start on a blank piece of paper, ever. And the reason why is because you've probably applied for things in the past, or you've probably written a paragraph about your business, or maybe you have a business plan, or maybe you had to write something to apply for this conference to be here today. You must start with what you've already done, because starting is the hardest part anyway, right? Am I right? Starting is so hard. And so have a folder. You could use Google, okay? You could use Dropbox, you could use Amazon, Apple, whatever. But have a folder that you can access from anywhere. It doesn't matter if you're on vacation, you're somewhere. You find out about a grant, you should be able to access this stuff quickly and easily. What am I talking about? Your business plan. Absolutely essential. Your budget, okay? It could be for your own business, it could be maybe you're an organization. You need that budget for your program. Your pitches. So if you've pitched your program or your project to anybody, to TELUS, or you pitched it to Jargon, or you pitched it to the bank, you should have those pitches somewhere, accessible. Common attachments are so critical. How many times in a week do I ask people for a budget and they tell me they don't have one? It happens almost every day, literally. And we are now hand-holding and helping people make budgets because they're running businesses and they're running nonprofits without a budget. You must have a budget. Does anyone know why a budget is important? Can anyone tell me? What do you think?
It helps you plan in terms of what income you need to run a business and how to manage and plan for your expenses so that you avoid deficits or surpluses, and also to put a picture to the grant manager, like a picture of what you're going to be spending on, when and why.
Oh, awesome, awesome. So 2 really strong points. One is it helps you plan. Okay, so when you have a budget and when you have projections, it helps you plan. The other thing is that paints a good picture for the grant manager. They now know what you're going to do with that money, right? So that's fantastic. Okay, we're on the top 10 most common mistakes in grants. Number 4. Oh, starting from scratch. Build on any declined proposals by obtaining funder feedback. Create a Google Doc and have your team make revisions, and then use cash flow projections for multiple years because you can get funding actually for multiple years. Okay, top 10 mistakes number 4. No commitment to long-term projects, okay? You don't want to be the business that creates brownies one day, you do muffins the next day, and pie. Now you're pie business, right? Maybe just stick to like dessert. You know, you're gonna solve the dessert problem, okay? And do it in a way that's consistent. Don't change your business every few months, every year. And why? Well, it's because it's very obvious to a funder when you make up an application. You saw something, it's due tomorrow, you put it in, you pitch it, you make up a new business, okay? You make up a new program. Everybody has a mission, right? Everybody should know their mission in their business. And then there's something called mission drift. That's when your mission starts floating away, okay? And when you commit to long-term projects, you're actually going to receive more support from corporations and institutions. I mentioned a corporation at the beginning of the presentation. It was a bank. Does anyone remember?
Jargon?
That's one. That's a lender. It's a. I mean, they do everything now. What's another one that I mentioned?
Tell us.
True, they are another one. I'm just gonna say it. It's Alterna. And the reason why is because Alterna has actually invested in the work we do. Every time we do a conference, every time we do an event, they're there. They'll come out. They give us money, actually. And you say, well, how do we do that? Well, right from the early days, I met with their higher ups and I said, look, this is what we're doing, right? We're trying to change the whole landscape. We're trying to teach people about funding. Are you with us? And they said, yeah, we're with you. And so what we do is we give them opportunity, they give us money. It's a great relationship. And so long-term work will receive more investment from corporations. I can prove it to you. This is one example, but look at the partnerships. Look at the Bell TIFF Lightbox, right? I understand that they're losing Bell as a partner, but for how many years was Bell connected to the Toronto International Film Festival? You know, that was a great deal for Bell. Like, Bell got a lot of exposure. You literally couldn't say the name of the festival, right? You would literally have to say, where are you going? Well, I'm going to the Bell TIFF Lightbox. Right? This is an example that when you do something long-term, you get great exposure and great benefits. If every year Toronto International Film Festival booked a new building, do you think they would call it the Bell TIFF Lightbox? Absolutely not. Bell would not have given them that money. It would probably just be, the TIFF Lightbox on wheels. You know. Government is the only one that is short-term. How many people think governments have a short-term focus? Short-term lens. In Canada, it's like 2 to 4 years.
Yeah.
Why? They're waiting until the next time they get elected. So that's really what they're focused on. They tend to focus on when is the next election, are they going to get in office, and they'll do things until the next one. And so if you want support for your long-term projects, I actually encourage you to go to corporations and institutions. They will support you longer and it'll be easier. It's much easier to get someone to renew than to start a new relationship, right?
Right.
Top 10 most common mistakes, number 3. Spelling and grammar. It's 2024 and we have Grammarly, okay? We have AI, they're literally creating like robots. We should not be making spelling and grammar mistakes, folks. It makes it hard for the application to be read, makes it frustrating for the reviewers. Like, look at all this free software. Microsoft Word, you can basically get it for free on any computer that you buy these days. Google Docs, which you know I love. There's others. Just use those. And don't use the portals. You know how there's the granting portal, you go into the government's website or Ontario. Don't use those because they don't even have spell check in them. It's almost like they want you to make typos. Like, use something else and then copy and paste it over, okay? Because that'll make you a more competitive applicant. Okay. So I'm reading, now I forgot what the acronym stands for. So I have to go back to the top of the grant and read it again. And as I kept reading, I'm like, what are these acronyms? I don't understand. And so I had to keep going back and reading in again. I didn't even know what the grant was about. At a certain point, I was just playing the decipher the acronym game, right? Going back and forth. And so that's one example too, and I think acronyms I'm about to talk about. But the example is, avoid spelling and grammar, and avoid things that make it difficult for your application to be read, if you want to succeed, right? And thoroughly review your application. This goes back to the not submitting at 11:59 part, right? So you have time to review. Top 10 mistakes number 2, too much jargon. What's jargon? Anybody? What's an example of jargon? Maybe in your own industry.
Vocabulary.
What's that?
Vocabulary.
For example? Anything. Like, what's your business?
Like slums?
My business?
Yeah, what do you do?
I'm starting a cleaning business and I'm also into housing.
Excellent. So let's talk cleaning. What's a phrase that you would only know if you work in cleaning? Or like a word or a technical term?
Sensor?
Sure. What does that mean?
When you're kind of like cleaning carpets and all that, looking out for metals, little metals and all that, yeah.
There you go. See, I have no idea. I have no idea. That could mean anything to me, right? In the back. Any ideas? Jargon. It could be anything.
Like sometimes we use slangs from our own languages.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's definitely one to avoid.
Yeah.
Grants.
And we assume everyone knows what we're trying to mean.
Yeah. And they don't, right?
They don't.
Yep. So that makes it difficult to understand. You know, even SMEs, I remember first saying SMEs and like SMEs. What? And so you have to know that the reviewer is probably not you and they're probably not somebody like you. When I was on the grant review team, you know, I was a 20-something young, you know, university student. I didn't know what half this stuff meant. I got a lucky opportunity, right? And so you're usually getting your grants reviewed by lay people. They're average people. They don't know anything about your industry. They don't know about Caribbean food. They don't know about suits. They don't know about cleaning, right? Have a friend or family member read your proposal. I really recommend this because they're probably tired of you going on and on about your business anyway, so they probably know a little bit about it. But at the same time, they're going to look at it and they're going to say, I don't understand. I don't know what this says. And they'll tell you, honestly, hopefully. And so then you need to go and fix it. If they look at it and they say, this is great, this reads really well, right? And they're being honest, you're probably more likely to succeed. Okay, now, I said I would share the top 10, and we're down to number 1. Can anyone guess what's the most common mistake that's made on grants? The most common. What do you think?
Asking for too much or too little?
Interesting. Asking for too much or too little. Yeah, that's a good one. It has to be reasonable. The budget has to be reasonable, right? What else? What else is a common mistake?
Too much detail, like the volume being too big.
Too much detail. One thing a lot of funders do is they restrict how much you can write. So they put on these restrictions, 150 words, 200 words. Really annoying because you want to write more detail, but oftentimes they actually limit you. I don't think I've seen 2 grants where it's unlimited. I think that's madness that they would leave it unlimited. It's usually quite limited. This is the challenge. What's another common mistake? What's one that you think everybody makes? Is it literally a mistake that everybody makes? The most common mistake on grants. What do you think?
Not being specific on the exact amount you need.
Interesting, not being specific. So being vague, just 5,000 for marketing, 10,000 for t-shirts, right? We see it in the back.
I think unclear objectives or goals.
Interesting. Unclear objectives or goals. Yeah, like the funder looks at the grant and they're like, I don't even know what you're trying to do. Right? Do you want to see it? Do you want to know the most common mistake on grants?
Plagiarism.
Plagiarism. Wow, that actually that opens a discussion topic. ChatGPT. How many people have used ChatGPT? It is literally being used for everything. I was at a conference yesterday, and one of the speakers, you know, they take in applications for, I don't know, I guess it's for jobs or something, and he says, last week I got three cover letters that were identical. So literally, people are putting it in ChatGPT now, you know.
Yeah.
I was reading a Toronto Life magazine and somebody said, they were like writing a thing to the editor and they're like, oh, am I mad for being upset because the person who wrote the speech at my father's funeral, she said he used ChatGPT. You know, she was saying what a great speech it was, and then he admitted, he's like, you know what, honestly, I didn't have time. I just put it in ChatGPT. Can you imagine? Imagine going to a funeral the next week and hearing the same speech. So that's a big one actually. That probably should be up here, like plagiarizing and just using AI. You can't submit the same grant that 5 other people are going to submit. Y'all are all declined, right? What's another one? What's another common mistake? It's the most common. What do you think? What do you think? I think I almost heard you say it actually. Were you saying it? Most common. Are you ready?
Yeah.
The most common mistake on grants is
Not answering the
not
question.
answering the question. Not answering a question. Very simply, there's a question that's posed and a different answer is given. Okay? What is the impact that you're going to make in your community? 1/3 of Canadians are experiencing poverty. Why? I saw this so much as a grant reviewer, I couldn't believe it. It was like they're answering a different question. Folks, you have to answer the question right away. You literally need to put the answer to the question. You got to take the question and put it right in the answer. Like, what is the impact you plan to make in this project? The impact that I plan to make is, and then you go on. And you can talk about the poverty, but you need to answer the question. So this is the biggest mistake. Void statements, vague, unnecessary statements, unnecessary statistics, they'll lead to not just a decline, but like a lower score, because grants get scored, and you want to score high. Okay, so that's it on the top 10. I was just having some fun with that. I hope you enjoyed that. Now I'm going to give you some juicy grant opportunities, so have your pen and paper ready. These are real, live, actual grants that you're getting right here. People pay us to do this and to provide this expertise, and so you're all getting a customized prospect research exercise starting now. The big hot grant that I told you about is the RAISE grant. How many people have heard of the RAISE grant by show of hands? Oh my God. We should all be applying for this. Do you know how lucky you are to be finding out about a grant 7 days in advance? People find out about grants the night before, or even worse, the day after. And then they realize they could have and should have applied. The Ontario government is giving out $10,000 for racialized entrepreneurs. Up to $10,000. The requirements are actually really lax. You have to make under $750,000. You have to have a plan. You have to have sales. They're really relaxed. I actually know 3 entrepreneurs myself who've won this grant, just from chatting with other entrepreneurs and people. They give you business development training. They give you what they call culturally responsive coaching, and then networking opportunities. That's all nice, but they give you $10,000. So I want you to apply for this one. We can help. Go through the team at Elgin and Kwame. Let them know you need help. Literally grab our contact information. We could literally write this grant for you, or we can review your grant, or you can write it and we can celebrate. Right? We just want you to know about these opportunities. Ontario.ca/raise. Ontario.ca/raise. If there's one thing you leave this workshop with today, it's this. Just try it, right? Like I want people to become comfortable with grants. I encourage you to just try. You have nothing to lose. You go and create an account. It's Transfer Payment Ontario. It's not a great system. Actually, the system is terrible, but the grant is good. But the system, I was on hold for 100 minutes last year. I actually took a screenshot on my phone. I was on hold trying to get technical assistance with the system. Because they use it for all of Ontario. It's a really bad system, as when most governments implement things. But the good part is that you can actually win this grant. And I guarantee you that if all of us apply to this grant, 2 of us will win for sure. 2 people in this room will win. If all of us apply, because you've been to the workshop now, right? Like, you know all the secrets, you know all the common mistakes. So you know what most people don't know. So this is like an exceptional group of entrepreneurs. You're exceptional. Everybody else is mediocre, but you've been to the workshop, right? Starter Company Plus grant. This is an interesting one. I won this one. That was nice. I did this through my local entrepreneur center in Brampton in 2020, right before the pandemic. They actually gave me a check. It was amazing. It was hilarious to get that, to be part of a group of people. There were 20 of us who started, and I think only 7 of us got to the end, because they made you attend these workshops. Okay, it was a little bit of work. You had to go to the workshops. I'm like staying up late at night doing homework, But they gave me money, and what I did was I pivoted my business. So this new thing called COVID was coming, and I said, okay, well, COVID's coming, so we'll do a different direction. Little did we know that things would shut down for 3 years. But anyway, I pivoted my business. $5,000 was cool. And it can be used for a new venture. It can be used to expand an existing venture. You have to make a business plan by the end of the grant, right? So I had kind of a crappy business plan. I made a really good one. That's Starter Company Plus. This is super duper interesting. In preparing for this application, how many people are food entrepreneurs? Just by show of hands. Yes, okay. Well, if you are a food entrepreneur, the city of Toronto is literally opening a stream as of October 30th for food entrepreneurship. I've always been really interested in this area. You can hear me talking about Caribbean food and other relevant food examples. So they also give you a micro grant of $5,000, but this is specifically for that stream. They have a female founder stream, a food entrepreneurship stream, and an early stage startup. So look into this because it's a great time to be applying for these programs. How many people are actually going to look into this? Just by show of hands. Yeah, okay. Access Community Capital Fund, accessccf.com. And like those of you taking pictures, please go back and look at your pictures, right? Don't be like me, I take like 20 pictures a day, I never look at them again. Literally my phone tells me it's full, and I'm like, fine, and I'll go back and delete them, right? But I want you to actually write down the actual grants that you're going to apply for, okay? It's very important. These grants won't be here forever. I literally took a look at a whole list of grants I had, and I had to take a bunch of them out when I was preparing this presentation because some of them disappeared, they closed, they're not offered anymore. When you can get it, take it. Okay, we might experience some major changes in government in the next year. Governments do whatever they want, and a lot of these are backed by government. So if you have money, take it, because you may not have money in the future, if you catch what I'm saying. Right? Make as much money as you can, save it, you don't know what's happening next. Oh, this was nice. I went on their website and I found this friendly thing with these 3 friendly faces, and so I just thought I'd take a picture. There's the Women's Business Accelerator, there's the Small Business Accelerator, and Women's Business Launch. And so, especially if you're a female entrepreneur, it's just amazing to see the opportunities that are being provided right now. It's like an amazing time for you to be a female entrepreneur. They help you launch, they help you accelerate, which means to scale your business, right? So try and look into it, tell a friend. See, they're going to tell friends right now. Ontario Summer Company. This one is really just for students, okay? $3,000 in summer grants, but it's nice because we're all connected to young entrepreneurs. A lot of us do mentorship, and so I think this is really important. They give you advice and mentorship from local business leaders, that sort of thing, so I think it's helpful. And it's a startup grant. I won't talk too much about this one. Ooh, Rise Asset Development. What I like about Rise is that if you've ever been declined by a bank, especially because banks can have a lot of reasons to decline us. Sometimes our credit isn't that good. Sometimes, just our application wasn't that polished. And the nice thing is they even focus on folks who maybe may have experienced mental health challenges or addiction challenges. I think after COVID, all of us experienced mental health challenges, so I think we all qualify now. And they will give you a loan of up to $10,000 for a 3-year term. I just want to point that out. A 3-year term means you're going to be paying very little per month. It is so accessible. It is so affordable. So what would happen if I gave you all $10,000 right now? Could you grow your business? How many people could grow their business if I give you $10,000 right now? Yeah, everybody. And so you should look into this program because they say it's a 3-year term. And if you know finance, you know that a 3-year term means it's amortized. The longer the term, the less you're paying each month. Let's not get into interest because actually the longer the term, the more you pay in interest. But the less you pay each month, which is great, which is accessible. Therefore, if you take it, you do good stuff with that money and you pay it back within 3 months, 6 months, you're on fire, right? We got a CEBA loan during COVID, CEBA, Canada Emergency Business Account. How many people ever got a CEBA loan? No. CEBA? Nobody. Guess what? The loan was $40,000 at 0% interest. I laughed so hard when I saw that our government was giving us a loan at 0% interest. I took it. When we paid it back this January, $10,000 was forgiven. Other people were qualifying for a $60,000 SEBA loan and $20,000 was forgiven. They don't offer that anymore. But this is what happens when you take advantage of loans. Just the fact that you've talked to your bank means they consider you for loans. They put you on the list. And when loans open up, they tell you about it. Yes, so I do believe in loans actually. I didn't before, but after benefiting from it and it helped us get through hard times, like that loan was a godsend for us because it gave us time. Loans buy you time. You know, we paid it back. This was a nice diagram from their website, so I just thought I would include it. RISE provides low interest small business loans. They give you business training and mentorship. And really a lot of the programs do this. Like I don't know how good all of them are. I haven't been through all of them. But if they're offering you all this stuff, take it, right? Employment Ontario. I do love Employment Ontario. I actually worked for an Employment Ontario agency for a little while, so I really got to experience it. Highly bureaucratic, lots of process, but man is it worth it. Through this program, you can hire young people who are considered neat. I don't mean neat and tidy. I mean young people who are not in employment, education, or training. And when you hire these young people, here's one now, what it can allow you to do is to help people who are experiencing barriers to employment. It can allow you to help people who are maybe not in school for whatever reason, you know, they're not working, maybe they're just in between, maybe they've just graduated, right? It allows you to hire them. So they have, it's kind of complicated, but they have employment service, that's one department. Then they have Youth Job Connection, that's another one. Then they have Youth Job Connection Summer, and I think they've come up with a new program ever since then too. So these guys come up with programs after programs to help young people get employed. That's it. And Employment Ontario centers are all over the province. How many people have ever been to an Employment Ontario center? Yeah, and I've been. They're awesome, they're great, they're well funded, nice places, you know, lots of money from the government. You should take that money. You should take that money in your business by hiring somebody young and getting a wage subsidy. We can help you with it. We know the application process inside and out. If you don't want our help with it, you can also, you know, do it on your own. You know, obviously, I recommend you get our help, but you can also do it on your own, I'll be honest. And so take the free money, please. While the government is giving it to you, are you tired of sending your own invoices? Are you tired of designing your own social media? Are you tired of organizing your own events? Hire someone, right? I don't love events, I'll be honest. I really don't. It's quite stressful for me. So we're hiring. We're hiring someone through a program like this. Actually, that's a slide I didn't put on here. Canada Summer Jobs. How many people have heard of Canada Summer Jobs? Yeah? So they provide about a 50% wage subsidy for business owners. Okay, it just opened, or just got announced. I believe it's due in November. I really should have put that on there, that just hit me now. And so Canada Summer Jobs allows you to hire a summer student. Last year we had our summer student do the most boring, basic database grunt work that we didn't want to do. Thank goodness for that student, right? The year before we had someone do marketing, critical marketing that I had no idea how to do, okay? And actually every year, for the most part, we've had a summer student. It's been really great. We got a 50% wage subsidy. Sure, it took them months to reimburse us. Sure, I had to fill out paperwork, but in the end, we got the money, right? So Canada Summer Jobs is one that you can pretend is up here. It's opening and it's due this month, I believe, and that's for next summer. Okay. Futurepreneur Canada is awesome. And the reason why is because they give more money than any of the other opportunities that I've mentioned when it comes to loans. They have actually taken away a lot of the requirements. They used to be more bureaucratic, it used to be more difficult. They've taken away a lot of those requirements. You can now get up to $75,000. Literally, they will set up an appointment with you like almost instantly. I just tried going through the process. What's nice is that when you go through Futurepreneur, they're not giving you all the money. It's actually BDC, Business Development Bank of Canada, that's giving you up to $50,000. And BDC is actually one of the easiest institutions to deal with. We actually have something with them right now. We have a joint one between Alternative Savings and BDC. They joined together and gave us some money last year. It's actually really easy to work with. They don't require much from you, right? So they give you mentorship, they give you resources, and they give you networking opportunities, which pretty much most of them do. But BDC is really different. Literally, they are the bank for entrepreneurs. That's how they promote themselves. And so I really encourage you to look into this partnership. This is a really unique one. And in Toronto, they have their main office, I believe, for Canada, if I'm not mistaken. I think Futurepreneur's main office is in Toronto. So that's futurepreneur.ca.
Can I ask,
Anything? Yes.
what kind of agencies are they looking at to fund?
Oh, I mean,
Is it open?
businesses, yeah. Entrepreneurs. But you have to be ages 18 to 39. It's a little discriminatory, I think, but if you don't fall into that age range, you should still talk to them. They can probably still connect.
What if, say like on my board, I have someone who is below, will that person front it?
Below 18 to 39.
No, like who is below, or
39.
who is, okay, let me say like who is, the rest of us could be above 39, and one of them falls in that cup.
On your board, you mean it's an organization, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't fund organizations. A lot of what I'm sharing today is really meant for entrepreneurs. The organizational funding, there's a whole other world of organization. That's where I spend most of my time. So maybe that's a private conversation we should have about how we can find you the funding there. I mean, anything you want to do that's legal, you can get it funded with a nonprofit and charity, anything. So let's connect one-on-one. Maybe I'll give you a little bit more personalized support there. So look at this nice image I found online. I thought I would include this very shiny. This is Jasmine from Toronto. She happily got a loan for whatever business this is. You can kind of guess. And so the future looks like you. Secure a loan with mentorship up to $75,000 for your startup. This could be you. And this is some big news they just announced last month, so I thought I would put this in here because this doesn't happen every day. I want to make it really clear that this money isn't coming out of the sky. This is the government's money. Okay? The government is literally giving this money because they're worried. They're worried that young people aren't going to become entrepreneurs. They need to have a way to support them. So Futurepreneur applies to the government to get this money. Right? They make an application, they get the money, and then they give it to you. And then you're happy, you grow your business, you become a success, and you go on Dragon's Den. IRAP. Boring name, cool opportunity for you to hire post-secondary grads ages 15 to 30. They're very particular on the age thing, right? Like you have to be of a certain age range. But you can have an internship, and this can be a paid internship, of minimum 30 hours a week. Nobody's going to remember that long Government of Canada website, but you can just search IRAP Youth Employment Program. IRAP YE. Okay. It's a pretty good one. Post-secondary graduates, let me just say they're smart. A lot of them are master's students. You can even get a PhD working for your company. Can you imagine what would happen if you had a PhD working for your company? Okay. Your company would get so much smarter. METAX is another one for smart academic students. You can literally hire grad students, even postdoctoral fellows, right? You can do R&D. You can do all sorts of things. But the academic institution has to contribute money. How on earth do you do that? Well, your business has to partner with an academic institution. It is really not that hard. They are so rich, they have so much money that they literally will contribute. Okay, and then METAX Accelerator contributes the other part. I'll just show you this little swirly circle thing. This is their steps. Step one is the match. There's some sort of development of a research project. Step two is the proposal. So a proposal is submitted to METAX. METAX is like $1 billion company, by the way. They have way too much money. Step number three is the project itself. It starts at 4 months, and you can literally have unlimited time to work with these brilliant academics. Okay. So I'm almost done here, stay with me. Scale AI. Scale AI. It's really interesting. They took away a lot of their restrictions. They had more restrictions and they actually took them away. And so now it's minimum $5,000 of a project. They won't even talk to you if you're less than $5,000. No maximum amount for requests, no min, maximum duration, just pretty much do whatever you want, just like the AI field. There's no deadline, you can apply whenever you want, it's sort of free for all. And they'll subsidize the cost for you to train your team on AI. They're desperate for people to get trained on AI, okay? It is amazing. It's an amazing time to be an entrepreneur. This much money was not flowing a few years ago, let me tell you. And if there's anywhere where there's the most money of them all, it's AI. There's almost endless amounts of money right now in AI. So train yourself on how to use robots because they're coming. Canadian Small Business Financing Program. This is the last one I'll share. And this is another ISED program, Innovation, Science, and Economic Development. And they'll actually give you loans of up to $1 million. How many people would like a loan of up to $1 million? I'll take it.
Who doesn't like
So you can start your business, you can expand your business, you can modernize your business, you can improve your business. They'll give you lines of credit up to $150,000, which is insane. I tried to get a line of credit for $15,000 and they told me no. The Alterna said they don't do it. They said I need to go through their corporate line of lending. Talk about your business needs with any bank. Every bank offers this. You just say, I need to talk about the Canadian Small Business Financing Program, and any loan officer in any bank in Canada will tell you about this one. Okay, so I know that's a lot to take in. I know you've been in this boardroom for many hours, you've been eating chips and trying to get by, but... Okay, so after this we can take a stretch, we can take a water break, but I will be here to answer some questions. I hope you found this helpful. My name's Rohit, I'm with Do Good Funding. Yes?
My name is James. I would like to go about any agricultural funding or agriculture grant. I didn't hear.
Yeah. Agriculture funding is a very specific one. I didn't include it on here. We just did a grant with a mushroom farm for $5 million. Agriculture funding is so big and so vast, but most of the people in this room wouldn't be eligible or even wouldn't be interested. So let's connect one-on-one. Yeah, and obviously it depends what you're doing and how big it is. The mushroom farm is like a, $50 million plus project, and so us applying for 5 is like small change for them. But agriculture money is vast and available, and the bigger you are, the more money that is available. Yeah. More thoughts? Yes.
I have a question about grants for youth, specifically in like policy. So a lot of opportunities tend to not be funded, especially when